Hello, I am Joshua Blackman, and today I want to be revealing to you that I am indeed a professional. I do indeed continue forward, and for watching this video, I'm going to be showing off my secrets in this landscape material. But I also am a professional and specialize in blueprints, animation blueprints, and I do C++. I'm going to address those proofs right now. And two, I would like to address this video that I made, but because the biggest criticism I got, I always listen to criticisms, was that, well, why is this even on Blender or Unreal Self-Taught Dev Group? So I'm going to address that towards the end of the video, and I will publicly remove it. So first of all, this is one of my materials that I've made, and it is a 19-layer landscape material. I created some of these map functions, the overlay map function and the which goes like something like this. It's two map functions overlaid on top of one another so that they can share textures for darkening. And another function is sloping, and I know that people know about sloping. Usually sloping happens with textures, but I'm sloping full map functions, and I'm going to be revealing the whole process in this video if you are in the Self-Taught Dev Group. Also, I would like to tell the Self-Taught Dev Group all the exclusives that I release to the Self-Taught Dev Group I'm going to be putting publicly on YouTube so they're easier to find. Some of the things that I have done is I have taught C++, and I had to, and this is, some people think this is easy, and it is, but it is hard. I had to redo the entire tutorial 1 and 2 because of updates. So I'll be addressing that. And I do deal with canned music, but I don't call myself a musician because of it. One of the things I also created, so some people think I steal, but I don't steal, is this ocean, or water, right here. And this water is a blueprint, and I'm going to be giving this away for free because it's actually a long blueprint to do and I don't want to teach a tutorial about it. I'm going to make a longer version of it later on anyways. This is a 10-second animation of water, frame by frame by frame all the way down. Somebody says that you could do it by height maps. There are texture limitations. This is something I discovered a long time ago. If you're wondering if I'm fresh, I actually created this material, this 19-layer landscape material, just to prove it to you, 2 years ago. 2 years ago, and I have a video up there on my old YouTube page 2 years ago. I also want to address the tutorials I will now be uploading. So first of all, part 1, CC Character Customizer, is up on YouTube already, and it's been up on YouTube for over 6 months now. Part 2 and Part 3 should be on the Self-Taught Dev Group somewhere buried beneath. All 3 of these are going to be uploaded. There is no tutorials that I could find of the Character Customizer. And somebody's going to criticize this for some reason, but I'm going to continue forward anyways. This is a $100 product, and so I don't even, like, I'm not selling this product, but the fact is that it should have had more documentation in it, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. And to prove to you that I know animation blueprints. This is a tutorial I created almost a year ago on animation blueprints and animation state machines. And I'm going to be uploading that to YouTube. Furthermore, I created a documentation overview that's on BitChute for privacy purposes, because YouTube is popular and spontaneous. I created recruiting videos before, but I figured this is probably the best way to recruit people. A lot of people ask me, well, what about the story? And the story is important, but I'd rather tell people the story personally so I can keep it private. And there's part 3 and part 2 of the animation blueprint tutorial. So I didn't just stop there. Also, I have a part 3 to C++ tutorial, and I will be continuing the C++ tutorial. So what I'm saying is, and I understand the perception that I might come off as fresh. I understand the perception that I might come off as a beginner, but I am not a beginner, and I have been doing Unreal for over 3 years now, and I understand some people have been doing it for 6 years now, but the fact is, and this is a poor fact to know and it sucks, but the fact is that some people do learn faster than others. Also, for those of you who are building a landscape material, I want to give you a little bit of advice here. So, and look, this is something that I didn't need to know when I first did this, because I didn't hardly ever really mess with project settings. But if you go to the project settings, all you have to do is find landscape, and there's max number of layers. And off the record, because I don't get on the internet too often, I do when I'm doing meetings and I do when I'm downloading content, because I don't want to be breached. I'm very secure in my position. In fact, I used to be a technician, and that's how I even started in wanting to learn how to code, was because years ago I learned how to do Unix. And I know that Unix is a simple system, but my point is, and networking, my point is, I'm just very secure with my documents and stuff. So I know that nobody is untouchable, but I also know that it's actually difficult. It's impossible to hack you if you're not on the internet. I mean, unless somebody comes into your house. So that's why I stay off the internet most of the time. What was I gonna? I have the whole C++ guide for Unreal, and I'm actually making a second one. The second one to update the entire Unreal UE4, sorry, C++ guide, because a lot of it is still outdated. Some of it goes way before Unreal 4. I started out in Unreal 4.17. I've had a engine that was 4.15. I picked up Unity as well. I just prefer Unreal's UI to Unity's, and to me that's worth the 5% cost. Also, it's something that I'm comfortable with. So if you want to join my team, there's 2 reasons why I'm making this. First of all, I'm textbook definition of professional, and a lot of you will say, well, I'm not a professional, but you are really talented and good artists. But the fact is if you've been practicing your hobby for a while and you plan on getting into the market, that's textbook definition of professional. You don't even have to plan on getting into the market, but in the market, in the definition, I don't want to get into definitions and overcomplicate things. But for instance, if I look up a definition of professional, it's relating to or belonging to a profession. If I look up the noun, which is what a professional is the noun, because it's a person engaged or qualified in a profession. So that's the basic definition. Also, what's the definition? And I'm not trying to, this is not about feelings or emotions or anything. I'm not trying to bring drama to this. But what's the definition of unprofessional? To look up the definition of unprofessional, I'm just trying to stay with the facts. Merriam-Webster's definition of unprofessional, minimalistic definition, not exhibiting a courteous, conscientious, or generally business-like manner in the workplace. It says in the workplace. I'm still going to be deleting that video, but, and again, because I am presenting myself as a professional, because I'm trying to recruit artists right now instead of make a simple rant, which I don't think belongs on Blender or self-taught devs, I just want to clarify that this is me acting as a professional, because nobody is professional 100% of the time. Everybody has slips, and I'm not making excuses, I'm just pointing out facts. So now I'm going to get to that video and clarify a couple of things in it, and even delete it for you in front of your eyes, since some people had criticisms of it. Some people understood what I was talking about, but it was a rambling rant. So first of all, the way I addressed Christian, I addressed it to the public, was rude. Second of all, Christian did do a good job in early on, and I'm not going to go further, but I'm going to say early on he did a great job in managing and taught me a little bit about business management. Okay, and other people did as well. The title of this video actually is called Critical of System, and that was not a mistake. That title was not a mistake. The method we were following was the Scrum method, very proven method. But the problem is each experiment you do in science, I loved science before I even got into this profession. Each experiment you do in science offers a new variable. And I know the waterfall method is probably not the best route to go, but simultaneously there needs to be additions to the Scrum method for game design, because it's not the same way as software development, and there could be multiple teams working on one game. And the waterfall method would have you believe that you have to do art, you have to have the whole thing planned out first, and that's a misconception. The Scrum method shows that you just have to have the basics planned out all the way throughout. So for now, my understandings, there's a couple of criticisms I want to get to of me before I delete this video, but I'm going to delete this video anyways because I understand those criticisms, is when I made this video public, and there's a lot of things that I've been hiding that I wanted to address to the Blender admins and to the Unreal Dev admins, which they can do whatever they want. They have full power over the system. I respect the admins always. And the thing I'm going to apologize for, because it's very dangerous to apologize on the internet. A lot of people don't know that secret. It's very dangerous to apologize on the internet, especially if you are being disingenuous. In other words, you're apologizing because you've been pushed into a corner. I don't believe I've been pushed into a corner. In fact, I'll still keep moving forward, but I like to stay within reason. I like to understand criticism. I like to keep moving forward, and I like to address my failings. So, this was rude. I get that. To clarify, I built this in 15. That the walls and all the structures in less than 30 minutes. Somebody said, well, my 13-year-old could build this in like 15 minutes, and then that's impressive, and I respect that. But I'm just pointing it out that, again, the thing was, it's my fault, because I had a system laid out, but I let it drag out, and I'm not trying to push people, but it's simultaneously the major thing in Scrum, if you look it up, is each sprint you're supposed to have a definition of done, a definition of done. And the person I worked with did not show up to 3 meetings in a row. So, and that's nothing on his fault. I have changed my system. We're no longer doing mandatory talking meetings. And in fact, that was somebody else's idea. And that might have been a good idea for certain business models, but for free open models like mine, it might not be a good idea. So I understand that criticism. 2, this again was clickbait. So that was wrong. And 3, I exaggerated a little bit, and I let my anger get the best of me in this video. If you think that this apology isn't enough, first of all, the only apology I'm making towards you is that this was clickbait. I'm trying to be genuine. Because this is what happened to you. This was clickbait, and it was something that you didn't even want to see. That's relative to Blender artists or Unreal Self-Taught Dead Team. In other words, that I don't have to make an apology to a person in public to apologize to people that I affected in public. In other words, I'm apologizing to the people I affected in public. I'm apologizing to the people that I affected in private. Because it is dangerous to apologize. You get attacked more if you apologize. Watch, I'm going to get a couple of criticisms of my apology. Because if you're being disingenuous or whatever. Now I'm going to go ahead and address the criticisms of this video. I don't want to reveal their names or whatever, and they don't have personal names. They should not have personal names. For good reason, I'm going to do this off screen, because I don't think that it's a good idea to even show their YouTubes. And I'm going to go ahead and talk about these criticisms. Not all of them. So first of all, it's not going to sound pretty what I'm going to say, but I do take criticism seriously, and so I'm going to do it off screen, and keep it, no names, not even worried about it. So somebody criticizes the scene, which is perfectly fine, and then they brag about how they can do it in 15 minutes, which is perfectly fine, and then they say, stop bigging yourself up and trying to belittle others. Actually wasn't attempting to belittle others. And I will address that. Another person actually gives me a compliment. She says, I see some of your points, and I agree with certain aspects of what you are saying, but I think you made yourself appear like you would be difficult to work with.
And she goes over in rational detail of what that means. And I respect that, but again, I'm going to go over criticisms. Another guy goes, this isn't a way to get a team to cooperate with you. Be humble, work with your strengths, and support others with their talents. Well, first of all, I agree with your criticism, but also in light of trying to be humble, which I have been for a long time, over the years, and a lot of you don't even know who I am because I've been too humble. I also don't want to sell myself short, but I also agree. I also understand what you're saying. And I'm going to go over a few on Facebook. This is going to require me to pause. One criticism is, no wonder people didn't want to work with you. And actually, to be fair, I haven't been as assertive as I should have been. So in other words, if I was this assertive, I'd be too assertive in the video. But to be fair, the reason why the project drug out so long, and it was supposed to be a small project, by the way, so we could build a big one, is because I was not as assertive. Some of the artists will tell you, who work with me right now, will tell you that. Also, I want to make it clear, and I've said this publicly, that my opinions do not represent the opinions of my company. In other words, my views do not represent the views of any artists on my company. I can only get through like the 30 seconds of this. I'm a game dev. Goes on to say I'm a beginner. And this is something that I really wanted to clear up, and it's an opportunity for me to clear up. Just because somebody posts something that seems fresh doesn't mean that they don't know what they're talking about. It doesn't mean that they are inexperienced, and it doesn't mean that they generally suck. But I understand why you would think that way, and this is something I actually wanted to make apparent. In the Blender groups and artist groups and in the dev groups, the most popular posts seem to be, and this is another reason why this is actually a good thing that I posted this video, even though I have to address this. The most popular posts seem to be the noobs. It seems to be the noobs. People, I don't know if it's the admins who think they're noobs, therefore they become more popular, or if people are just attracted to the noobs. You know, I'm not a noob, but I guess that did look like I was a noob, and I understand that criticism. Hilarious how some people are full of themselves. Well, in fact, if I'm trying to sell myself and advertise myself and sell products, except with the exception of trying to be in reality, I have to know my limitations and I have to know what I'm good at. This is simultaneously with each artist I have to work with. I have to know their limitations of what they're good at. Somebody says, is this satire? It might be. I don't know. It's probably not. I tried to make it. I tried to come on and try and make it satire, but that's me avoiding the problem. Another guy says, what do you actually do? You are ranting for nothing and wasting people's time. I agree to some extent. And finally, you made Unreal Engine look like Game Maker, which I understand that criticism. Another guy comes off cool. He's like, take a deep breath, my guy. Start from ground zero and stay humble. Well, again, I can't start from ground zero. But I understand your criticism, but I still have a team and I still have people to recruit. He says, this video displays arrogance and ignorance bundled off with very, very off-putting way that you may not be allowing yourself to grasp. And I'm going to address that. And somebody goes, what the actual fuck? And look, I understand all these criticisms again. And so now I'm going to make a conclusion, and I'm also going to be showing you some of my secrets at the end, after that conclusion. So here's what I'm going to say. The way I did this was wrong. I should have did this from a business perspective and a business point of view. And what I'm addressing, I'm not addressing Blender, and I'm not addressing the self-dev team. So one thing that's addressed in Blender and dev teams is that there are these people who don't know anything about anything and don't know what they're talking about in any form or fashion, meaning they don't know how to work, they don't know business and all that other stuff, and they pretend like they do, and they recruit artists into a false dream in order to steal their stuff and sell it. This is how a person who's genuine can be blacklisted, because somebody assumes that they're that type of person. If you're wondering why I'm pissed, or was pissed, it's because I have been blacklisted before, but I'm the real deal. That's why I'm passionate. That's why I was angry. I'm not angry most of the time. 99% of the time I'm not angry. In reverse, in flip side of that, in which case everybody still has to learn, I'm not, and some people are going to say that I should still be humble, but I'm not looking for beginners. On the flip side of that, I'm not looking for beginners. Somebody's going to say, well, look, if, and it's something I'm going to address real quick. Somebody's going to say, well, look, if you're looking for people to work for free for you, you got to be humble because beggars can't be choosers. But at the same time, if I'm offering you a profit at the end of the road, which I'm splitting evenly, then I want everybody who puts forth effort in the group to profit. And I don't want people in the group who are not going to put forth effort. And it's not just because of me. This is why I still have most of my team. Understand? Because they know what I'm talking about. They know that I'm talking about people who, and I'm not saying he did, but I addressed this early on. They know that I'm talking about people who don't put forth effort. And I'm not saying because I didn't give them any assignments, that's bad management. But I'm saying they know that I'm talking about, the fact is, if you have one person on the team who doesn't put forth effort, and everybody else's effort is being split among the group at the end of the day, at the end of the margin, at the end of the goal, and everybody has lost a profit. Somebody's going to say, well, it's not about profits. In fact, in a business, it is. It's what makes a person a professional. So it's something I want to address. I'm not attacking noobs. I'm not attacking intermediate artists. What I'm trying to say is everyone in a group should have a system and should basically try and improve it each week. And simultaneously, everyone with assignment, unless they're, of course, because we go through daily lives, we all work 8 hours a day somewhere probably, should find time during that week, on the weekend, or the following week to finish an assignment. Somebody's going to criticize that, but everybody's a critic. Last, some of you think it's a disservice, but I cannot help but say I have to thank the admins for holding through and keeping my post up, because what I'm going to do is rearrange the post to add this video to it in an edit. Then I'm also going to delete this I'm going to delete this. Oh, it might be gone now. Yeah, but I'm going to delete that post. And
add this to my original post, why I am still a professional, and it's going to still address my apologies. And I have segmented this video out so that I can give you the goodies, which I promised. The goodies that I promised, I can still give them to you for free. And if you're an artist and you want nothing to do with Unreal for some reason, you don't want to deal with the animation states and all that other stuff, I understand. I'm going to link you to a group called Blender 3D Assets, and that group has a lot of free assets on it. I haven't actually taken any of those assets yet, but it's because those are the artists that I would also like on my team, because they just grind and they just do it for a passion. One of my best friends, because I'm a dev, it's funny how we met, but I'm going to get out of the semantics. I'm going to get to the goodies real quick, but I just want to add this comment. My best friend is one of the hardest working artists I ever met in my life. He made like 150 different insects in one day, and he made a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm not going to tell you his name, but he has a controversial perspective too, and he has controversial ideas too. But we always treat each other respectively on work. But because we're friends, we talk to each other outside of work. And if you're friends with somebody, I'm not saying that we have to be friends if you work with me, but I'm saying if you're friends with somebody, you're going to come across disagreements. And on occasion, you might even enjoy the disagreements and disputes. I know that I brought up controversy, and I respect the controversy that, not the controversy, but rather the admins for allowing me to have that controversy in the group. I'm not trying to cause chaos. That's not my thing, but this chaos has allowed me to address a bigger audience, actually. So in some ways I'm benefiting from it. That's why I didn't want to fully apologize for the whole video. It's because I don't want to apologize for how I felt, and I don't want to apologize for everything that I said. I just want to address what I really was apologizing for. But I can't, like I said before, you got to be genuine when you apologize, otherwise people are going to attack you. So, like I said before, I had a stroke of luck, in my opinion. So I'm going to get to the goodies now. And I'm also going to have a link in the description below to skip to the goodies if you didn't want to watch this whole video. So I kind of ran out of physical energy to talk. You might be wondering, well, you ran out of physical energy to talk after 49 minutes. Talking without a break is taxing, especially for me. And this is why it's hard for me to do tutorials, because I'd much rather prefer to talk to somebody and talk them through it than to teach, because there's something I could miss. There's everything that I think about on the other side of the screen. And it's too much, almost. It's almost too much, but I still make tutorials anyways. So I'm just going to go over the structure of this material. I'm going to have a date that I'm going to post this material on Unreal for free. And a couple tips and tricks that I did. But to teach about this material, to continue in my tutorials, they will have to be later on. But for now, I can post my other tutorials that I have been hiding behind the scenes. And again, that art group is called Blender 3D Artists, and they give away free art, open source. You can use them for anything I've already asked. It's actually 14, or it might even be more than 16 texture samples, but to go over this material, there's a whole lot of instructions that I have to give. Not only because it's unorthodox to make. So let me just click on here first of all. This grass node that I created is based off. If that's familiar to you, it's because it's based off the Unreal grass material. But again, there are some differences, like to save on textures and to save on instructions. There are differences in this material. But if you took the entire grass, Unreal grass texture, in which case I'm going to make a video about noise, because if you did not recall, this is going to be vector for noise, but basically I have inputs for everything in this material function. So that was simple. That's a simple place to start. You can't sell something on Unreal that's simple, by the way. That's too easy. So there's some things you can sell that are simple, but there's some things that you can't sell that are simple. So for instance, this would not be considered a unique asset because it's copying Unreal's original basic material, which is fine and standard in a game. But again, to be able to sell this, I would have to include the rock slope. Rock slope is a slope of mat function. So let's say you took what I did before and you did the rock slope, which I'm taking a material attribute and another material attribute. I'm breaking these material attributes apart and I'm sloping the entire materials based on these lerps. So it goes something like this: basic color into A, basic color, second basic color into B, and then we get to the alpha. The alpha comes from the noise. I'm going to cover the noise real quick, and I've already deciphered a way to reduce textures with noise. I know the noise I'm using right now is texture based, but that's why I got into noise, because there is computational noise that can reduce texture limitations. Also, there's a couple commands I'm going to do publicly for you. You already probably know them, but some of you are beginners, and I respect that. So back to the base material, there's also that slope theory adjustable. I can plug this slope theory adjustable into another slope theory adjustable because that's again a material attribute. In other words, I can slope my slopes. And then is that the only nodes? Overlay map functions and slopes. Those are the main ones. And then there's another slope theory adjustable. And then I added wet sand. I can't show this one because this one's not mine. That's something I'm using, but I'm not going to sell it. I'm going to make a different version of it probably. I can't use the texture. Then I get into the gradients, which are still based off of the original basic material, but again, it's gradients. And I get into the other two: macro texture variation, a different gradient, fade to flat. And these, again, you want to plug these in the right places. And why you want to use so many nodes is because the map functions actually save you on computation, a whole lot of computation. So when you actually do the noise, I'm gonna go over a video on noise. I actually have an entire texture set, and people are wondering, like, isn't that already available? Like, everybody always asks this question when you produce something. Like, you're an original guy, right? And you're trying to produce something original. Somebody already came up with a variation of that idea, right? And so they're like, well, isn't that already out? But that's not the reason why you produced it in some cases. It's not the reason why you produced it. So I'll get into that noise video. where I'm showing all the things you can do with just noise, including making windows. And I'll make a tutorial about how to make windows, how to make concrete slabs, concrete sidewalks, with the lines, how to make lines with noise, and all kinds of cool stuff you can do with noise that I was unaware of, and I had to do experimentation to figure out. And then I also made like a water. This is the one thing I was criticized for. I made some water, noise water, and it wasn't like the best water, but to be frank, it was based on noise. And to be frank, let me show you my ocean blueprint one more time. If I go to my ocean blueprint, which right now it's just ocean shore, there's going to be a lot more of these that I'm going to be making and then eventually selling. If I open it, which I'll sell this one for free. I'll give this one away for free. If I go into this ocean blueprint, hold on, I don't even have to open it up to demonstrate it. I can just, in the viewport, and this bridge isn't mine. I'm not trying to show stuff that isn't mine, but that's just something that I wanted to add to the scene that I thought looked cool. But if I scale this up, let's say by 2, then you can start to see the waves. Actually, you can start to see the waves for of this, and this is going to get really wavy now. I press play briefly. Oh shit! Still have some bugs I gotta fix, but it might not work now because it's offset. No, it's not offset. It's offset by a little bit. I'm also going to get into how to auto dude the dude. I'm just doing this temporarily for debugging purposes. Because currently in C++, not in blueprints, in C++, default character is, default character? Oh god. Oh god, I'm getting a little bit of chunks here, but it's like, it shows you how big the waves can be. There's a lot. It's chugging. I know that it's chugging. Normally outside off screen it doesn't chug. It's because I'm running so many things at the same time and I have more than one Unreal thing open. But basically you can increase the size of waves and stuff due to scale, not just in animation. And so you could create like really big waves with this blueprint that I made. And I'm going to get into if I add, I keep going on, I'm not trying to keep this too long. If I add the noise water, why I made it, I can get rid of textures altogether. I'm not trying to say that textures are bad. In fact, polys are also bad. So this is going to be bad on polys, but it's not going to be so bad because polys are actually, the poly limitation has moved up while the texture limitation hasn't really increased that much. In other words, I can have, I have a texture limitation for computers like 128-bit and 256-bit, and I have a texture limitation for PlayStation 4 like 72-bit. 72-bit maps, not bit maps. And that means total overall textures of what you see in the viewport should be at maximum 72. In other words, you can have more than 72 assets, but if each of them has a different texture, more than 72 assets, then it's going to chug. And that's at maximum. That's at maximum. So, and again, with computers, it's rough. It's rough with computers because there's so many new computers that's been out in the past 5 years that are just blow the water away, just or exploded, you know. So with computers, I have a general rule, and I go with my minimum median computer rule, in which case I say, what is the most popular computer that's bought? What is the computer that people have already bought? What's the median in between that? And it'll tell me about where my texture limitation is if I want to just sell to computers. Which I keep it at PS4 or PS5. It means if I create something of good quality with the PS4 limitations, then I have exceeded limitations. I'm not saying it's a good rule. I'm just saying that's a rule to have if you want to go third-party base. And then mobile games are 32. If you want to build a mobile game, it's 32 for texture limitations. Also, I have a tutorial I'm going to be making for all you, even who are just level devs. Imagine you're a Blender 3D artist, but you also dabble in level deving. I'm going to be making a tutorial which introduces culling to an entire landscape and how to basically cull. I'll explain culling in a minute. I'm pretty sure that most of you who are intermediate know this. How to cull pieces of the landscape instead of the entire landscape with something that's basic in here. Some people don't even check what they have available, but this is a culling volume and cull distance volume. If I were to throw this cull distance volume on the landscape, and let's say I'm go away from this for a little bit, at some point that landscape's going to disappear. Well, I gotta set the settings probably. Maybe it's this one. Use experimental class. Okay, well that one might be an experimental class, but I can create a blueprint class for culling, and I've used the blueprint class for culling, which so it culls whole pieces, not of the landscape. It culls whole pieces. So like, if you're in Grand Theft Auto 5, let's say, or Ark, or other open world games, buildings are not foliage, and everybody should know this. They're blueprints usually, or they are static meshes. To cull those, usually they use, instead of making each one, because this is something that's mutual, instead of making each one, unless you're doing child BPs, which that would be better, but instead of making each one basically cull by distance, what you do is you put a culling volume in there, and it hides all the big chunky buildings and whatever is in that culling volume at a distance. So the problem is, if you apply that concept to landscapes, the entire landscape disappears. You might be wondering why you would want to apply that to landscapes. Is because of poly limitations. You can get past poly limitations if you use the new method that I created. The new tutorial is going to be about how to take a huge poly landscape and cull it. This is how bigger games, basically, like I forgot the name of it, but it's like 5-10 times larger than some of the most famous RPGs you can think of. The way it does it is it calls out regions, whole landscapes, but you can actually even get more specific than that. You can call out whole parts of the landscape. And I'll get into a tutorial on how to do that, but first I'm going to have to do it in practice. And it's something that I'm practicing right now.